sixth graders, we are in our decimals unit. Our title of our page is going to be place value and rounding. So put that at the top of your page. Our learning target is identifying place value of decimal numbers and rounding numbers to any given place value. Hopefully, I remembered to give you this sheet of paper today in class, so you can tape that into the spot that you are taking notes on right now for this video. If not, then I will give it to you tomorrow, so you don't have to copy this whole chart down. But hopefully you have it down. So these are all the different place values from millions to 10,000s. So if we have a number, let's say we have a number 321, 21, and this decimal point means and, or we say and, 56 hundredths. We would, obviously we know the numbers before the decimal, 321, and then after the decimal, whichever place the number ends in, that is the word that we say. So 321 and 56 hundredths. We could do, let's do 54,311 and 6/10. So I would say 6/10 because it ends in tenths. And this one, the decimal, we always say and. If I add a 7, it would be 54,311 and 67 hundredths. If I add a 2, for 54,311 and 672 thousandths. And then if we add a 3, 54,311 and 6,723 10,000ths. So it's important, whatever digit or place value it ends on, that is the word that you say for the decimal. We're used to reading numbers this side of the decimal, so it's these that we need to make sure that we understand. All right, so when we're rounding decimals, so we've been rounding numbers without decimals for a long time. So we know that if we have 578 and I said round to the nearest tens place, we know that we look at the ones place. Oh, it's higher than 5, so it tells me that I need to go up. I need to raise my tens place up. So 578 would then become 580 when rounded to the nearest tens place, which makes sense because 578 is only 2 away from 580 and 8 away from 570. So we are used to doing rounding that way. When we put a decimal in, it seems like it gets a little bit more confusing, even though it's the exact same rules. So when we round numbers, it gives us an estimate or an about answer. We're going to talk about the steps as we round these numbers, and then I'll have you go back and write down these steps in your own terms. So if I want to round the following numbers to the ones place, so first of all, I'm going to say this number as 2 and 924 thousandths, because I have tenths, hundredths, thousands, so 4 is in the thousands place. Round to the ones place. So my first step, identify the underlined digit. So it's telling me to round to ones. So I'm going to underline 2 because that's in my ones place. Look at the number to the right of the place you are rounding to, which is right there, that 9. If it's 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. I'm sure you've heard lots of different ones, or maybe you use a different one and use your own. 5 or more, because 9 is greater than 5. So that means I go back to my 2 and I raise it up to 3. And then it says change all the digits to the right of the underlined number into zeros. I keep that decimal 3.000. Any zeros after the decimal, if there's nothing after them, so like these, there's nothing after my zeros, can all be canceled out. So 3.000 is actually the same as 3. Okay, let's look at this one. This would be 0 and 12 thousandths, or we would just say 12 thousandths. We don't need to say the 0. But we do need to have a 0 before the decimal. If we just wrote it like this, okay, we always want to make sure that we have a 0 in front of it. To the nearest ones place. So 0 is my ones. I look at my 0. It is less than 4, so I let it rest, so that means I keep 0 the same. Rounded to the nearest ones would just be 0. Okay, round the following numbers to the nearest tenths, or to the tenths place. So we have 32 and 145 10,000ths, and we want to round it to the nearest tenths place. So I look at my 0, because that's in the tenths place. Then I go to the number right of it, which is my 1. Sorry, it's a little hard with this pen. It's less than 5, so I keep it the same. So that tells me the 0 keeps it the same. Anything before it stays exactly the same. So 32 and then my 0 stays the same. Everything else after it, the 1, 4, 5, turn into zeros. There's nothing after these zeros, so these can all cancel out, as well as the decimal since there's nothing after it. And then my answer is 32. 10 and 376 thousandths. So my tens place is the 3. I look at the 7. It's greater than 5, so I have to raise it up. So I'm raising up the 4, the 3, and I'm increasing it by 1 to 4. So I keep everything in front the same, so 10 and then the 7 tells me to increase my 3 by 1, so 4, and then everything else, sometimes I just cross it off, or I change it to 0, and then remember, since there's nothing else after these zeros, they can cancel, so it would just be 10 and 4 tenths. Okay, write down these steps in your own terms, in your own words. You can pause it. Let me erase some of this so you can see it. Okay, if you have a little certain thing that you say, that's totally fine. And then I would like you to do all of these. So do these 4 on your own in your notebook, and then come back and check. If you get them wrong when you check, just erase it and make sure you get the right answer and understand it. We'll go through this in class as well. Round the following numbers to the hundredths place. So hundredths, remember, it goes after my decimal. It's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this is my hundredths. And you can use that sheet with all those place values. All right, so 0 and then I have 259 10,000ths. So my hundredths place is the 2, which means I look at my 5. That tells me to go up. So 0, because I keep everything the same before, 0.01. And then everything after gets deleted. So my answer is 1/100th is how I would say that. And I know that if I'm rounding to the hundredths, then I know my answer is only going to go out to the hundredths place. So if I have more digits after that, then I did something wrong. So I have 5 and 123 thousandths. I look at my 2 because that's my hundredths. Look at my 3, less than 5, so it tells me to keep the 2 the same. Keep everything before. Oops. Keep my 2. My 3 goes away. So 5 and 1200ths. Round the following numbers to the thousandths place. So we have 14 and 782 10,000. So the thousands is my 8. So right away, I know that I'm going to be keeping all of this. The 14, the decimal, the 0, and the 7. Now I decide if I'm going to leave it as an 8 or if I need to move it up to 9. So my 2 right next door to it tells me that I keep it the same because it's less than 5. So 14 and 78 thousandths. And then 3 and 2,799 10,000ths. So I look at the thousandths place, which is a 9. So this one's kind of tricky. I look at my next one to the right, which is a 9. So I know that I'm going to have 3.2. I'm going to leave it like that for now. The 9 tells me to go up right on this 9, this 9 right here. I need to round up because my next door neighbor is a 9. But if I round up, it becomes 10. And if I have 10 right here, then I need to carry one up and make this and round this one up to an 8. And then, so it's kind of, so basically instead I have 3.28, and then that 0 is that 10, but I rounded that up to an 8. It's kind of hard to explain. So my answer is really going to be 3 and 2800ths. That's a tricky one, and that's a challenge. So if you did not get it correct, no worries. All right, review what you need to go back and review. Make sure you have your notebook in class, and I will see you tomorrow.